Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast. Today is Friday, November 18th. It's the last Friday before Thanksgiving. Oh my gosh. A week from today is Black Friday. I was just reminded about this. I'm so depressed. Joining me now in my depression is Dwayne Generalissimo Patterson of the Hugh Hewitt Show, master of the universe, HUGHNIVERC.com, the troll-free web surfing experience for Hugh Hewitt fans and listeners. And Dwayne, how much of your Christmas shopping have you gotten done?
Oh, it's Christmas shopping? None.
Yeah, same.
Zero.
How much of your Thanksgiving shopping have you gotten done?
That's a hard question to ask, actually. I actually have outlaid cash on Thanksgiving. We are actually going to Flagstaff starting next Wednesday. We're going to drive out to Flagstaff. Why Flagstaff? I honestly have no idea. Our next door neighbors and our family, we were in Utah last year. We decided to just spontaneously go to Utah for Thanksgiving. We had fun, went to an Airbnb there. And this year we decided we're going to Flagstaff. Why? Because Sedona was booked up. I don't know why, but we're going there. And so I'm throwing the e-bikes in the back of the truck, and we're going to pile in and leave Wednesday. So I've outlaid the money on our share of the Airbnb, and I'm bringing the turkey roaster, and we're doing that whole thing. But I still don't know why we're going, but we're going, and we're going to have fun.
Well, I'm glad that you're going. You're going to have fun. We're having family coming into town, so we're going to have some fun here too. I actually bought the turkey. That's a whole other story. But I ended up buying 2 turkeys.
Well, if you look at
one of us for Christmas, so.
and we'll get more. We'll cover more of the midterms in just a minute. Speaking of buying the turkey.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Did Republicans buy the turkey? I like this. This is a good bit. Did Republicans buy the turkey? Yes. Are they getting the stuffing as we speak? Well, we could talk a little bit about the midterm status. We're down to 5 uncalled races. We know that House Republicans are going to have the majority at 218, but what you don't want is 218, 217. That is a bad position to be in.
3 of the 5 are still in California, but from what I can tell, the Lauren Boebert race in Colorado is going to go to a recount. The last I saw on that, Boebert has a 551 vote lead, and there was literally 200 votes left that hadn't been counted as of last night. Even if all 200 broke towards the opponent, the Democrat, which they're not, they're going to be split. But even if all 200 went in, there's not enough there. Her margin going into the recount is going to be north of 500. And unless something really unusual happens, that's outside of the margin of cheat for recounts.
I'm not going to talk about the margin of cheat, because the margin of cheat is hard to quantify, right? Because it depends on what kind of cheating you're talking about. But what I can say is the margin of error in counting ballots, just the natural margin of error.
Recounts don't overturn 500. They don't.
I will tell you one that had a 500 vote swing. The one I had a ringside seat to. And I'm, obviously Minnesota as a state had a larger, universe of ballots too. But you're starting to get uncomfortably into the zone where recounts might actually matter. And we're still not quite sure if Otero County has fully counted its ballots. They're going to finalize it today. The good news, of course, is Otero County is actually one of Boebert's better counties.
Right. So again, I would be, I've seen a lot in elections. We both have in our 20 years of doing this, but Boebert's going to win that race. So that's going to be a pickup. That would be a minimum of what, 219.
219.
Kevin Kiley is going to win California 3. He's up. He's been up all the way along. Decision Desk HQ has already called that race. That was the one that they called bringing it to 218 which caused Decision Desk HQ to throw the House to the Republicans a day ahead of all the rest of the networks because of that Kiley race. They've already called it. They've seen enough there. Kiley would make it 220. Valadeo's going to win his race. That's 221.
We should talk a little bit about Valadeo, though, because Valadeo, that's actually a Democratic district.
It's a Democratic district, but Valadeo is the incumbent. He's got name ID. He's got name ID. He's
also one of the very few Republicans who voted to impeach Donald Trump too, which is one of the reasons why he's got credibility in that district.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he's gonna win that seat. And then the other one is John Duarte. He was behind for quite a bit, and then a 1,500 vote dump went his way. Last night or the night before, and he went from a 600 vote deficit to a 900 vote lead, and that may be a little bit too much insurmountable for the Democrat in that race there. So that would make 222. That's kind of the conventional wisdom. Dave Wasserman from Cook Report thinks that the conventional wisdom now is 222.
222. Yeah, you and I were joking about that on Wednesday night. The Room 222 theme and all that. But the reason why you need 222, 213, which would be the mirror image of what the last 2 years have been. Right. I mean, that's what Nancy Pelosi's control is. The reason why you want that 9, as much of a pad as you possibly can get, even though it's nowhere near what you need to tamp down factionalism, is because if you end up with 218, 217, or 219, 216, what ends up happening, Dwayne, is that the meat market opens up. It's party swapping time. It's time to. It's the Capitol Hill Key Party.
You have
toss your keys in the bowl and you go home with somebody else other than your spouse.
You have the little angel and the little devil on the shoulder of the guy in Animal House as the passed out half naked girl is on the bed, right? Right. You have that scene play out of the little talk in the ear. Look, I talked a lot about this with John Campbell last night, and even at 222, he's worried that McCarthy's not going to be able to clear the 218 hurdle on January 2nd. I think he's going to, and I don't think it's going to be actually that hard when all is said and done, for two reasons. One, Kevin McCarthy may be the best positioned person for this narrow of a margin. There is simply no better schmoozer and no better networker than anybody in recent memory on the Republican side in the speaker class. Certainly not Paul Ryan, certainly not Denny Hastert, certainly not John Boehner. Kevin McCarthy builds relationships. He is a networking god. He does have relationships with everybody there. He's less of a policy guy and more of a personal handshake. He knows your kids. He knows all about your story. He knows your bio. He knows everybody in his caucus. So that's going to help him greatly getting into that. Now, for those that want to use their individual seat as the 218 vote, and there might be 60 Republicans that think they're the 218th vote, and technically they are, but if they're in the minority, they really don't have much to go on there. They're not going to be really given anything. Their leverage, and they will have leverage on policy once they're in the majority, but their leverage only works if they're in charge of the committees, if they're on committees, if they're in the majority and they set the agenda. Then they can have all sorts of fun and lean on McCarthy and say, I put you in as speaker. Now you owe me for this, you owe me for that. They don't have that leverage if they don't put him in to begin with. They're gonna galvanize around the important vote, and then it's going to be the circus for the next 2 years. But Kevin McCarthy's going to have the gavel. I am very confident in that.
I think that you're at 220. I'm not sure you're at 222, but I think you're at least at 220, maybe almost certainly at 221. That's you're not going to get enough people.
You're not going to peel off 3 or 4.
No, because people want to. The other thing about that too is that's a little bit more attractive sometimes in the Senate than it is in the House. When you're in the House and you're in the minority, you got nothing. At least in the Senate, you've got the filibuster on legislative issues,
right.
but the minority in the House stinks. There is no reason to want to flip over and wind up in a minority. If you're already in the minority, what you're looking to do is flip over to get into the majority. If you're looking to flip at all, and I don't think that there's a lot of people that are going to be flipping. We should, however, talk about somebody who's stepping down, supposedly Nancy Pelosi, the end of an era. You can say 20 years of her being at the top of the caucus, right? I mean, it's I think it's been 20 years, right? I think she came up in 2002 or 2003.
Yeah, I think so. It seems like she's been there since 1975, right? But
well, she's been in the House since 1987, but I don't think she went into leadership.
Right, but I mean, it seems like she's been there since Biden was a teenager, right?
Right.
She's been there a long time. So I've got 2 very plausible scenarios for what Nancy Pelosi's doing here with the announcement she made. She's not going to run for leadership, but she's not leaving the House, at least as of yet. The 2 scenarios that I see, I probably, if I've got $100 in poker chips, I put $80 on this first one, and maybe I save 20 for the sucker bet for the backup plan. The $80 bet goes to, she knows the margin is going to be thin, 221, 222, whatever it takes.
That's my joke.
I'll help you commit to the bet.
That's my joke, man. 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Yes. So she knows that Kevin McCarthy is going to have a hard time herding the cats, because she had a hard time herding the cats. And so she and Steny Hoyer are going to stay in their seats and not provide a vacancy initially, because if the 2 of them step down now and resigned from Congress, and she went off to go be an ambassador, which that would come and all that stuff, you would reduce the margin, but with those 2 vacancies, that Kevin McCarthy would need to become speaker. And
right.
she's not going to do that.
On the other hand, well, I'll let you finish up your thought, because I have a thought about that. I actually think that she just made Kevin McCarthy's job easier, but you finish up what you're talking about.
I agree with you, but I'm saying, but she rules with an iron fist, but her tactics always aren't the most sound tactics. But I agree with you. She actually makes it easier to galvanize around McCarthy, because she's still out there lurking. But if she were to step down theoretically, and Steny Hoyer were to step down theoretically, that would create a couple of vacancies. It would reduce the margin that Kevin McCarthy needs to be able to become speaker. She's not going to do that. She's going to make everybody on the Republican side walk the plank for Kevin McCarthy. And then at that point, probably she will announce that her retirement from Congress, as the ink is dry on the paper from the White House nominating her to go be the ambassador to Rome or something like that. So that's the most likely scenario. Here's the sucker bet. Here's the $20 bet. She's looking around at the results of the midterms, and she doesn't want to have to sit there and deal with the AOCs and deal with all the knotheads as part of the minority. So she's gonna sit back and lay low, right, for this term. And she's gonna do her version of Winston Churchill and be the quote unquote backbencher, which is going to be nothing of the sort. She's still going to be pulling the strings behind the scenes.
This is going to be my point, but you keep going.
And here's her play. her play is Donald Trump wins the nomination for the Republicans, goes up against Joe Biden, and because it's Donald Trump, Joe Biden beats him again because the country can't stand Donald Trump. We saw all the Trump acolytes get pounded and underperform in the polls, and she's going to think, you know, if the Republicans are stupid and the Democrats play Operation Chaos again in some of the early primary states, maybe we can get Donald Trump this nomination once and for all again. And he'll lose to Joe Biden in 24. And if the backlash against Donald Trump is big enough in a presidential election, and there's only a 4-seat majority for the Republicans in 24, why those coattails of Joe Biden and the anti-Trump coattails are going to be long enough that the Democrats are going to swing right back, and it will only be a 2-year majority for the Republicans. So why would I not immediately leverage what I've just done behind the scenes for 2 years, letting Hakeem Jeffries, act as though he's the Medvedev of American politics. And she actually is going to go for the Bibi Netanyahu and angle for the third go round. The first person ever to come back and actually serve as speaker 3 different times. That's a long shot sucker bet.
No, I don't think she'll come back as speaker. That's the one thing that I don't think will happen. She's not coming back as speaker. No. I think she's going to stick around. And this is what I think is going to happen. This is the reason why I think Hakeem Jeffries is not going to be terribly happy about this. I think he was figuring that she was going to take the job as ambassador to Italy, but she's connected to the money, right? And when you're connected to the money, you control an awful lot of things. And that's what she was saying on Sunday, by the way. And I don't think enough people picked up on it. I certainly didn't at the time. That she, even if she wasn't speaker, she would retain a great deal of influence in the House. And the reason why is because she raises the money for everybody.
Yep.
And so when you're raising the money for everybody, well, you can have some puppet out there as speaker, but he's going to dance to your tune. And that's exactly the way it's going to look for Hakeem Jeffries. And I don't think he's going to be very happy about that. But I don't think he's got much choice.
And I agree with you. But I'm telling you, if that scenario plays out and Trump gets beat and the Democrats look like they're going to come back in, I'm telling you, she is going to be sorely tempted to go for speaker one more time.
I don't think her caucus will do it. First off, I don't think her caucus will do it. Secondly,
again, where does the money follow? Where does the power follow?
I think that people are going to start trying to disconnect her from the money over the next 2 years in a way that they couldn't do, especially Hakeem Jeffries. I think Hakeem Jeffries' job number one is going to be to build all those connections to the money, because otherwise he's not his own person as speaker. It's a really strange,
which is why she's still there to protect her interests.
She's not going to do another run as speaker. That once you've passed the baton to the next generation, it doesn't usually get passed back, right? I mean, it just doesn't.
Unless of course she makes the case that he couldn't handle it.
Okay, so let's parse that one out a little bit. The white woman is going to tell the black man that he can't handle the job. I wish you luck as a Democrat trying to make that argument. Ain't going to happen. It is not ever going to happen. She will become the world's largest Karen. Okay, that is not going to fly. It just isn't. It's done. It's a done deal. She's let it go. My guess is that I think she thinks that she can mess with Kevin McCarthy's head. But again, as I was talking about earlier, this actually makes things a lot easier. It clarifies things for
it clarifies these things. She's still lurking. She's still the boogeyman.
Right. Okay, we have our differences. Okay, we're going to have our internal fights, but let's not forget that we've got Nancy Pelosi on the other side still pulling the strings, and we need to make sure that she can't get her fingers back into this. And my guess is that once it's become clear that she can't get her fingers back into this, and especially if Hakeem Jeffries manages to sort of, cut the puppet strings with her, she might end up taking that job in Italy. the ambassador job in Italy before the end of this session, because she won't get a chance to do it after this because Joe Biden won't get reelected. I think that this is a short-term power play on her part. I think she wants access to the money. I think she wants to see just how much influence she can have as a backbencher. I think it's interesting that Steny Hoyer joined her, because I don't see this at all for Steny Hoyer. Steny Hoyer is, I think, joining her just because he doesn't want to be part of the leadership thing anymore without her. I think he just decided that it's just not worth fighting over, and he wants to have an easy. I wouldn't call it a victory lap, but a retirement lap, maybe just an easy retirement lap. And maybe
all I know is if I'm Hakeem Jeffries, having two sets of eyes sitting right there staring at him the whole time, that's not a comfortable position to be in.
And this is one of the reasons I think that it had been more or less traditional. I don't think it was in every single case, but it had been more or less traditional before Pelosi, that once a speaker stepped down, they pretty much just left Congress. I think Hastert filled out the rest of his term.
They at least waited until the leadership vote. They handed over the gavel and then they resigned. That's normally what happens.
They resigned from Congress and let the new leadership roll.
And again, I think 80 of my $100 is after the leadership vote, after the speaker vote with the full House on January 2nd, 3rd, whenever it is. If McCarthy clears that hurdle at that point, then probably more than likely that's when she would actually say, okay, I've had enough. I'm gonna bail out.
Well, yeah. I think that this is a 6-month plan. I think it's a 6-month plan. I think she's going to wring as much money out of it as possible. She's going to stick around to see if she can actually pull off the puppet act. And when it becomes clear that she's just not going to be able to do that, then I think she retires and asks Biden for a cushy diplomatic job for the next.
Unless, of course, it's working, and if
it works, she'll stick around.
And if it looks increasingly likely like Trump is going to clear the hurdle and become the nominee, I'm telling you,
they're never going to let her back into leadership. They're never going to let her back into leadership. And I'll tell you one reason why is and I forget who it was. It was a Capitol Hill reporter that was writing about this yesterday on Twitter, right before, of course, it imploded and disappeared into a black hole, an internet black hole, which it didn't do. We'll talk about that in a second. But the Pelosi was able to last as long as she did because of fear. And this is a Capitol Hill reporter, not a Fox News reporter. This is it's either Politico or it was one, Punchbowl or something like that. Basically, she's not that well liked. Apparently, is what the issue is. She has had an iron grip, as most iron grips are, based on fear rather than loyalty. And once she's out of the way, I think that if that's her plan, I think she miscalculated, because I don't think there's any way they let her back in after that. I think everybody will be very happy to see her in the rearview mirror, along with Steny Hoyer. And I think if they could have gotten James Clyburn out of there, would have done it. They would have booted him out as well. No, she's done.
All I will say is, until I actually see the cold dead body carried out from the Capitol once and for all, I'm not buying it that she's not working a plan for some kind of a future run. That's not how she operates.
Well, you may be right, but I mean, and maybe that's what she's thinking, but I don't think it's I don't think that's realistic.
And I'm willing to concede that she may be miscalculating there. I talked to Campbell about this last night, and Campbell knows her a bit, right? He was in there quite a bit when she was there, half the time a majority, half the time a minority. That is not a non-zero option here, and he admitted as much last night that would be a classic Pelosi move.
Well, classic as it may be, I count me as deeply skeptical on
Oh, again,
on that spread.
I'm not putting a lot of money on that bet. I think
No.
the odds are.
I think she's sticking around to try to direct the House caucus,
See if the field
using
comes
Hakeem
to her
Jeffries
again.
as a
Right.
puppet.
See
And
if
I don't
the
think
field comes to her.
And I don't think Hakeem Jeffries is going to put up with it. I think he's going to put forward a smiling face for politics, and I think behind the scenes he's going to be trying to cut those ties.
What committee
as
does
rapidly
Nancy
as he can.
Pelosi sit on? Because as Speaker, she was never on a committee. Now that she's just a normal Congressperson and not in leadership, what committee does Nancy Pelosi sit on?
I guess it depends on where Hakeem Jeffries wants to put her, doesn't
Right.
it?
So does she sit on rules? What does she?
Well, she would actually. I mean, actually, she would probably be really good at rules. That would probably be the right place.
She probably would. Does she chair rules? Does she have seniority over everybody?
I would think so. I think she's
almost think
longest,
so, right?
She's the longest. She's got to be the longest serving, or very close to the longest serving House Democrat. She started in 1987. That was 35 years ago.
So how does that go over to whoever would have been next in line for the Democrats to be on rules or whatever?
That's a seniority issue. If somebody more senior wants that position, they usually get it. I mean, that's just business as usual. I don't think that that's going to cause a whole lot of angst. It may very well be that she doesn't chair anything. She may want to sit on a few committees, but she may not end up chairing anything because her focus will be on trying to run everything behind the scenes.
Well, I misspoke. She wouldn't chair anything. They're in the minority. She'd be a ranking member.
You're right. But ranking member. Yeah. I made the same mistake. Yes, ranking member. But I mean, she may not want to even do that much. As ranking member, maybe it'd be a little bit better. Actually, she's only going to be she's not going to even run for re-election. I will make that claim right now. She's not even going to run for re-election. There's a bunch of people in San Francisco who've been waiting for that seat to open up too.
Yeah.
I think she was bigger.
There's 97 genders of people that in San Francisco that probably want to run.
So did you watch her speech yesterday or listen to it?
I just cut the basic 20 seconds of her saying
it. It was.
Did you see who wrote it? Did you see who wrote the speech?
John Meacham wrote it.
Of course he did.
It was a 1-minute speech that she finally got to the point after 10 minutes in. Yes. And I was thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure they're not going to cut her off, right? I knew that they weren't going to cut her off. She showed up in the white pantsuit again because that's the color of the suffragettes.
I thought you don't wear white after Labor Day.
Well, if you're referencing the suffragettes, it's okay.
I see.
Emily Post says so. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing was just make an announcement. Okay, I'm not going to do it anymore.
I got a bigger kick out of the 1-minute speech by Sheila Jackson Lee trying to compare slavery to the disparity in COVID deaths.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Oh, well,
I don't usually listen. I did get a kick out of the one from a Republican that was thanking California for a lack of energy that's going to make people die over the winter. That one I actually did listen to because it was right before Nancy Pelosi got up to speak, and I thought that was a pretty good a pretty good entree to Nancy Pelosi's bloviating. Anyway, all right. So enough about Nancy Pelosi. Enough about the House. Actually, let's talk about Twitter. Twitter imploded yesterday. Except that it didn't. Apparently 90% of the employees at Twitter are leaving now. Half of them, Elon Musk got rid of right off the bat, right? He laid off half of the staff. Yeah. So they were down to about 3,750. And then earlier this week, he said, was it you that I was joking around with? It was sort of like a middle school note passing exercise. Do you really want to work here? Check yes or no.
Yes.
Send around that memo. Do you really want to work here? Check yes if you do. Check no if you want 3 months worth of pay and get the hell out. Well, apparently about 90 or 80% of the people who got that note checked no and want their 3 month severance pay. So they're down to about 10% of the staff that, at least according to reports. They're down to about 10% of the staff now that Elon Musk had. So I got online today and I did a tap my keyboard, is this thing on tweet, and it seemed to work just fine.
I'm on it right now, and I was on it yesterday, and I was on it the day before. I have yet to know. I cannot see one noticeable, tangible difference in the pre-Musk and post-Musk Twitter. I haven't seen
one either, not even in moderation. It's the same moderation policies.
I haven't seen any iota of difference whatsoever. It's pretty telling. If they're down to 75 people from whatever their original staff was, what does that say about how bloated a lot of these Silicon Valley operations are?
I think that's the real question.
Oh, absolutely it is. Can they get lean and mean and more efficient and still do the same thing? It seems like they probably can. Here's the thing that I think is just grand about all of the angst and all the hair on fire stuff. Twitter right now, this week, this month, is this year's global warming, right? We only have 8 years left. We only have 9 years left. We only, we saw a report, a month ago or 3 weeks ago. They just reset the clock again. We only have 9 years left. Well, they were saying we had 9 years left 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's the same hair on fire alarmism. Just substitute climate change or the environment for Twitter and apply the same alarmism. This is the end of Twitter. It's going to end in a week. It's going to end in 2 weeks. It won't be long now, except of course it's still going on. Is that going to stop anybody? No, they're just going to reset it. Well, this person quit. The end is near. It's going to end now. These are the same people that looked at Trump like, well, the end is near. The walls are closing in. All this alarmism. How many times have you and I gone through a news cycle where you see all this groupthink alarmism, like, this is finally it. We've reached critical mass here. I'm not buying it. Twitter seems to be working just fine.
Yeah, I think that what this shows, first off, there are already reports, right, of extreme bloat at Twitter, where you had even Twitter employees. I mean, these were, I think was it not James O'Keefe and Project Veritas that had some inside video of people discussing the fact that they only worked 8 to 10 hours a week at their jobs, and that they had all of these sad rooms and stuff like that where they could go and hide when they felt stressed at all, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, just nonsense stuff. And I think that, first off, to the extent that you just got 40 hours worth of work out of everybody, you probably could cut the staff on that basis by half.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and the thing is, I saw Dave, who's the guy from Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, right?
Yeah, Dave Portnoy, yeah.
Who's actually friends with Elon Musk, and he was like, "So, is this really going to lock down? Is this really going to blow up?" And Elon's response to him was, "Look, a lot of people are gone. The key core engineers that we need to keep it running are still here. They're working fine. We're fine."
And he's got more from Tesla that are in there right now too.
And he brought some Tesla techs in there as well. And between the key engineers that helped build the Twitter app to begin with, and his people at Tesla, he's like, the tech side of it's fine. You don't need a ton. You just don't. I mean, the thing's already built. It's not like they have to build it every day.
Right. Exactly. You need to make sure that you're doing server maintenance, which he can use the Tesla techs to do that, to do that much. And continue moderation, I guess, is the only other thing, dealing with signups. I don't know that you needed 7,500 employees at Twitter. And I think that that's what he's proving, is that you didn't need 7,500 employees at Twitter. And what's the number one operating expense for most companies, Dwayne? Labor, right?
Yeah, it's labor.
So he buys this thing for $44 billion, which is overpriced, and everybody knows it's overpriced. It was a dumb deal, right? We were cheerleading it just because we wanted to see a change, a change at Twitter, but it was a stupid deal, right? I mean, we can admit this now. This was a dumb deal.
Of course it was, and there's no realistic profit margin. I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's based on a bunch of bots. There's a lot of fraud in its sales pitch. It's business model.
So what do you do when you've leveraged your wealth in order and made a bad deal, and spent too much money on an acquisition? And I can tell you this from firsthand experience, right? Because I was around Hughes Aircraft when General Motors bought them up. It was a disaster for General Motors, an absolute disaster for General Motors. One that Ross Perot tried to prevent them from doing, and they ended up kicking out Ross Perot over it, right?
Right. So what do? You slash labor down to the bare minimum of what you need to do to keep it running, and you cut expenses, you cut costs, and then you start to figure out how to make it profitable.
Right. And in General Motors, they did it the wrong way. When it came into Hughes Aircraft, they let Hughes Aircraft executive management decide on the cuts, and it was executive management that needed the cutting, and General Motors wasn't smart enough to figure that out. They could have come in and looked at the org chart and draw red lines across 2 or 3 levels of management and just laid all those people off, and it wouldn't have impacted operations a single bit. And apparently that's what Elon Musk has stumbled onto over at Twitter. So he's going to save quite a bit of money by ushering these people out the door. The 3-month severance pay is, chump change in exchange for the money that he's going to be saving dealing with these issues over the next few years.
And so
yeah,
you've got Twitter, blowing out a bunch of people in a really nasty public way, right? And everybody's freaking out and reacting to it and overreacting to it and just capitalizing on the moment. But what's also going on at the same time? What's the labor workforce count going on at Facebook by the day right now?
Oh, that's also being reduced. There's headcount reductions at Facebook.
No.
Across like 10,000, right? 10 or 11,000 that they got rid of.
No. Why is that happening again?
Bloat, actually.
Oh, so we now have 2 social media kingpins that are a little bloated in personnel. So maybe what Elon Musk is doing isn't necessarily financially unsound. Maybe what he's doing isn't necessarily a bad thing if you have too much bloated labor that's not really working efficiently.
Well, and I'll tell you why, is because there's no competition. There's not a lot of competition between Facebook and Twitter. They're really 2 very different products, right?
Correct.
Same thing with Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and YouTube. 2 very, very different products.
Where's the angst? Where's the people all saying, well, I'm going to quit. I'm leaving Facebook forever because he's laying people off, and this is wrong. This is evil. Elon, why isn't
but that's because Facebook is the good platform compared to Twitter. I mean, it used to be that people were aiming at Facebook, but they're the responsible platform because they're cooperating with government censorship operations. So they're the responsible platform.
You mean as long as the company is ideologically acceptable to the left-wing masses out there, you can actually lay staff off and it's okay.
Apparently so. Yeah. You can lay off staff because 11,000. That was 11,000 was more than Twitter employed. It's at about 50% more than Twitter employed altogether.
See, that's what I thought too. I thought that was a pretty big layoff.
Yeah, don't look at that layoff. Just look at the fact that Elon Musk is being a meanie. Let's look at that.
I see.
So,
I see.
and
Okay.
you know what
I
else?
just want to make sure I understand.
You know what else the difference is? You know what else the difference is too? There's another difference. Is that Clinton world isn't coming after Facebook. Clinton world is coming after Musk and Twitter. You see that report from Fox Business News with Accountable Tech, which was part of Hillary Clinton's what's it called? Elect Me Again. I forget what her new thing is called.
Yeah, exactly.
I got robbed. I was robbed Foundation, I think is what it's called.
Didn't we hear that the DOJ is going to come after Elon Musk too and investigate whether that was a legal acquisition? Didn't we see talk about that?
I haven't seen that, but I there wouldn't be any. The board agreed to it. Twitter's board agreed to the sale. In fact, they sued to make sure that Elon Musk followed through on it. So I don't know what the DOJ would have to do with that. If there's talk about that, it's just talk. The DOJ doesn't have any say in an acquisition in which the purchased entity sued the buyer to make sure that he actually followed through on the sale. That'd be a hell of a case to bring to court, right? Well, Your Honor, we think that this was an illegal acquisition. Excuse me, but didn't the company sue the guy to force him to buy it? Well, yes, but yeah, okay.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
I'm just saying we seem to have a different standard. We seem to have a different rule set with social media companies. When it's somebody that has fallen out of favor with half the country.
Yeah, what a shock that is. We're all terribly shocked about that. Well, we're just about to the end of our podcast today. Actually, I've got another interview coming up with Rob McNeely about crypto, which is very interesting with all the stuff that's happening with FTX. Dwayne and I didn't get to that, but Rob McNeely and I do talk about that, so stay tuned on that. Doggone it, we didn't get a chance to talk about Donald Trump.
Did he do something this week?
Oh, well, yeah. You know, if you read the New York Post, you probably didn't notice it because it was buried on 8/26, but he kicked off the 2024 presidential cycle. Unfortunately, you and I talked about that on Wednesday, so we're fine.
We did talk about that on Wednesday. We make a joke. We make a joke to help you forget how screwed we are. No, here's the long and the short of it.
Let's make it the short of it because we're already running long here.
I get it. I remain unconvinced that Donald Trump is going to get the nomination this time around. The shtick is 7 years old. It's not the same shtick. He's not adding anybody new to the fold that he didn't already have. And all he's done is alienate women and independents. And you saw that with every one of his candidates, his preferred big ticket candidates from coast to coast. I'm not sure he's going to make it this time around. I'm just not. But we'll see. You know, it's going to be an interesting cycle.
I agree. All right. So I would normally ask you what's coming up in the next Hugh Hewitt show. That's Monday. I don't even know if you guys got the show lined up yet.
Bob France is going to fill in from Ohio because you're doing relevant radio.
I am. I was asked. I will tell everybody I was asked, but unfortunately I was already committed. You
were asked and deferred. You chose not to join leadership at this time. You're going to be a backbencher. So Bob France is going to host on Monday. So we've got shows Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then we're off for the break. But you know, for the next few weeks, this is kind of silly season. There's some political news, but there's not a lot going on between now and the end of the year, unless you know, war breaks out worse or some unforeseen black swan event. But we're getting to the point where things kind of take a little bit of a break after the election for the holidays. So who knows what we're going to talk about on Monday?
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, lots of stuff coming up. And of course, you can go over to the universe and get a lot more content over there, a lot more exclusive content. You got James Lilacs coming up tonight, right? On the after show.
Yep. Lilacs will be on tonight. We'll do a baker's dozen, some of the oddball stories of the week, and a little bit of current news, but not much. Mostly just kind of kick back and have some fun.
Well, there you go. And an Enjoyment Friday. So be sure to tune in. You got to be a member of the universe, HUGHNIVERSE.com. The troll-free web surfing experience for Hugh Hewitt fans and listeners. I'm a member. I'm on there Wednesday nights too. Lilacs is on tonight. You can't miss Lilacs. You got to join for Lilacs. You don't join for me, join for Lilacs. Lilacs is a national treasure.
Yes,
And Dwayne's got him locked up on Friday evening. So there you go. Dwayne, Generalissimo Patterson, thanks for being with us. We'll talk. I guess we probably won't do this next week because we'll be, the holidays, but we'll probably come back in 2 weeks to do this, right?
I think in 2 weeks, probably in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, we'll talk then. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And
You
we'll
as well.
talk to you on the other side of it.
Sounds good to see you guys.
Bye. Stay tuned for Rob McNeely and more coming up on the Ed Morrissey Show. Joining me now on the Ed Morrissey Show is my friend Rob McNeely from Tusk.network, TUSC.network. My crypto guy. Everybody should have a crypto guy. Rob McNeely is my crypto guy. He's the guy who knows everything that's going on in crypto. And Rob, first off, welcome back.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for having me back. I love being here. And we talked about this before, like you got something weird to talk about. And man, in crypto right now, there's some weird stuff to talk about.
Well, I mean, the whole FTX collapse, Sam Bankman-Fried, his actions in this, the connections between FTX and, policymakers and, the politics of it, the money of it. It's just crazy. And you and I talked about crypto. The last time we talked about crypto, we said, hey, look, it's any investment is a risk. And, anybody can have an investment that collapses, and it doesn't mean, crypto's not the only place that happens. I mean, Bernie Madoff, for instance, did a Ponzi scheme, had nothing to do with crypto. So, I mean, it's, those types of things happen, but this, I think, is a pretty big blow in the crypto industry right now. And it seems to have shaken up a lot of people. And I'm kind of curious as to what, first off, if you can explain it to us, second off, tell us what it means.
So believe it or not, I don't actually think this is a crypto problem. And though it involves cryptocurrency,
right?
Everything that was done was not done because of cryptocurrency. So I'd like to just point out that what's happened is everything they did was illegal. And everything everything they did was regulated in some way, and they violated every single possible rule you can imagine. But what we always say is that this wasn't that the blockchain was hacked here. So what
right.
FTX was essentially a crypto bank offshore. So understand that they're based in the Bahamas. They are not a regulated U.S. entity, though they have one small entity that is regulated in the United States. They have from what I looked at, they have over 120, 130 different entities under an umbrella across the globe. So understand this is not like an American company for the most part. They lived in the Bahamas. They were incorporated offshore. And what we say in crypto, there's this old axiom, and you'll hear it time and time again that says, not your keys, not your crypto, or not your keys, not your coins. And there's two types of crypto exchanges. Exchanges are just ways that, they're like marketplaces where people buy and trade crypto, just like people might do with a stock on a stock exchange. The thing is with crypto, even though it's digital, whoever controls the key of the wallet that crypto is in has control of the crypto. So when you have two types of exchanges, centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. So a centralized exchange is like FTX. They're just like a normal stock exchange. But when you trade on a centralized exchange, you are handing over the keys to your cryptocurrency and giving it to that person and trusting that this company, and it's a company, is going to do good care and take fiduciary responsibility with your funds. Whereas a decentralized exchange, I could throw out a name like XBTS, for instance. You can trade crypto there, but you possess the keys to your coins. They're always in a wallet you control. There is the people that, put the developers behind that decentralized thing don't actually have control of your crypto, whereas on a centralized exchange did. And so the other thing is, so FTX had a partner company called Alameda Research. I call it their gambling arm. And so what ended up happening is they were basically gambling with doing all sorts of interesting market bets. They were trading news stories. They were betting on futures. They were betting on other exchanges. And what so happened is they just took everybody's money from the FTX side. There was no wall. There was no silo. And so it looks like what's happened over the last 3 years, these guys came out of nowhere, basically promised no risk investments, and people started to believe them. And they just got really good at getting people to give them money. And then they started having tokens that they were creating on their own and trading on their own exchange that were not even real. They then used those little fake assets in addition to the real assets that they stole from their users' deposits, and then were using them for collateral to get more loans so they can make more bets. And they got caught with their pants down when the market tanked. And then a rival exchange, Binance, went out and basically knew what they were doing, because FTX tried to do a bunch of market manipulation on the Binance exchange. They caught him. And so you have these two giant exchanges fighting with each other, and CZ had the upper hand and basically called them out. So I look at it like Binance and FTX are like a little drug cartel fighting with a big drug cartel, because they're all bad. None of them are good.
This reminds me, though, Rob, again, we're speaking with Rob McNeely of Tusk Network, TUSC.network. So that's where you go if you want to find out some, the real skinny on crypto. But it reminds me of what happened in Canada, and I can't even remember the name of the exchange that where the guy may be dead. I mean, you'll know the story better than I do.
I forgot the name of the guy in crypto years, dog years. That was like a century ago, right?
Right, exactly.
But the guy's name was Cotton, I think. And so what ended up happening? This is very similar though, but on a much bigger scale. So the Charles Ray, I think is his name. He was the new temporary CEO of FTX and Alameda, and he's the guy who did handle the wind down of Enron after it collapsed. And I just saw an interesting post from him saying that in the 40 some years he's been dealing with like these companies collapsing. So he's an expert in restructuring and bankruptcy of, failed companies. He said that they had no financial control. They didn't even have an accounting department. So these people allegedly had, so we don't even know. So this is the thing, like they didn't even have accountants on board. And so like basically any money that was going into their little paws just went to whatever gambling scam, anything they wanted to do. But on top of that, since they had a lot of resources, and then they started marketing and they got into naming rights of stadiums, they got Tom Brady roped into this. And I think this is what's probably relevant to your audience in particular, is there's an interesting connection to politics involved with this. And there's both rumor, there's conspiracy theory going on right now, but how it looks right now is that SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, his mother and father are huge Stanford, they're professors at Stanford, and very well connected to the Democratic National Party. And in fact, his mother is a huge bundler fundraiser for the DNC, has personal political connections to, Hillary Clinton. So he came from a very politically active family.
Right.
And he is, and supposedly this last two elections, SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO, literally has pushed almost $70 million to Democratic candidates across the spectrum. So he's only the only bigger one is like George Soros. And so there's some interesting funny business. So, and none of that makes a lot of that makes a lot of sense to me, right? If you're the son of this big political donor, you're probably a huge lefty yourself from California, and your mother's a big fundraiser for the DNC, so you're probably going to be left leaning, right? And maybe he just made a whole bunch of money and just is on its own donating. But the problem is that they were commingling all their funds. Right. And here's another interesting element to this. So after the Ukraine war started, we have two interesting things happening. Lots of people from all over the world wanted to donate money to the Ukraine. So FTX set up a little payment gateway setup so people could donate crypto directly to the Ukraine. And then you had the US government just giving all this tax money and payer money with no accountability to Zelensky. And so we also know that Zelensky's regime was actually using FTX as a way to take crypto and turn it into cash at their bank. But the one thing that's not, which is kind of, it's a rumor at this point. I don't know if it's true because we don't have access to the books. This is the big part. And according to the new CEO, they don't keep books. And so we also have that there could be this conspiracy theory is right now, or the rumor is that taxpayer money was being funneled to the Ukraine, which was then being funneled to FTX, which was then being funneled to Democratic candidates and action committees. The other thing that could be interesting, which we don't know, was Zelensky embezzling money that was given to him by the U.S. government and investing in FTX for his own personal gain or not. Again, we don't have proof of that, because apparently even from the inside, the accounting doesn't exist. It's literally they had wallets and they spent money, came in, money went out, and they commingled personal funds with business funds, which again is illegal in every country in the world. And so this is the thing that I hope will be unraveled, but I don't have faith that it will, that properly be investigated at this point. I think a lot of people that are more on the right also don't trust that the FBI, the SEC, and all the relevant agencies are actually going to do their job. In part, this is the reality is the current, commissioner and, head of the SEC, Gary Gensler, is also has family ties to the CEO, Caroline Ellison of Alameda and FTX. And Sam Bankman-Fried has been getting all sorts of access. He's testified in front of congressional committees. He's getting one-on-one access with Gary Gensler. And so I don't believe that these agencies can even, they'd have to almost recuse themselves. You'd almost have to create, in my opinion, some kind of special counsel to investigate this, because the investigators in this case are possibly indicated,
or at least incompetent, right? At least incompetent. Here's the, or at least, again, appearance of impropriety, right? And there's a lot of that right now in this case. Here's one key point that I want to ask you though, and you've been kind of going around it. I just want to kind of nail this down. You've mentioned this is what FTX and Alameda were doing were illegal in every country in the world. It's illegal in every type of investing, not just crypto. If Correct. Sam Bankman-Fried if he actually deliberately set this up to be a scam, and I don't know that you can really conclude any other way if they're commingling funds and they're not keeping books and they're moving money all over the place and then sucking up to policymakers and power brokers, it looks like a classic scam. But he could have done this with anything. Could have done this with any sort of commodity. Could have done it with as long gold. As it was offshore. Gold, silver, platinum, whatever. Pork bellies. You could do. This is the type of scam that you can set up doing anything else. Which leads me to my next question. What can the blockchain do for us in this case that wouldn't be possible with, pork bellies or gold or silver? Is the blockchain able to establish a lot of this better than we would normally see in situations involving other types of fraud?
Absolutely. So if you self-custody your crypto, which everybody in crypto says this, don't leave your crypto on an exchange ever. Don't. If you want to buy something on exchange, buy it, download it, and bring it back to your own wallet that you control. Think of it like, don't leave your money in a stock exchange. Put your money in your safe in your closet. And that's what we recommend as a best practice for security standpoint. If you do that, you have no risk of being hacked. You have no risk of these bad actors taking your money and then doing bad things with it. With the blockchain, so for instance, you can trade on a decentralized exchange where you always maintain control of your crypto, and there's always transparency on these transactions. That's something you can't do with, whether it be like paper gold or pork bellies, crude oil, or stocks. You can't do that. The technology allows for people like me and you to trade valuable digital assets in a way that we don't need a trusted middleman that may just steal our crap. So that's what's happened in this case. Too many people just decided that they thought it was a good idea to work with Alameda. The contagion about this is that a lot of other crypto firms were using them as a liquidity back end. And we're giving them they did this a few times where they bought smaller exchanges and then they took all the assets of the depositors in those exchanges and then gambled it away, which is, again, completely illegal. So I want to just reinforce, this is not a failure of crypto. In fact, because of this, we were able to see, so the day after they filed for a Chapter 11, there was an alleged hack of almost $600 million worth of crypto moving from the wallets that they controlled to some other point. If this were dollars, you would never have known that even happened. A lot of us don't really believe the hack story, of course. We think that I think there's a huge chance that they're going to abscond with funds, but we'll see what happens on that. And that's another thing. He's still walking around almost 2 weeks into this scandal. He's still not in custody in the Bahamas. So it's likely that he's very friendly with the local authorities, because in any other country in the world, he'd probably be in cuffs, at least, because he is such a huge flight risk. But it's not a crypto problem. This is just a fraud and a manipulation and wire fraud and securities fraud, you name it. They did everything wrong. And I think, to your point, was this intentionally set up to be a scam? And I think it was. And this is why. If you look at the way they have so many different corporate entities and shell companies spread around the world in different jurisdictions, that was done to a very complicated and a very meticulous degree. Someone really helped them. Now, Carolyn Ellison's father just so happens to be a very excellent person at offshore tax shelters. So this is another one of those things. And he also wrote some tax policy for Senator Warren. So this is where it gets really weird with the whole overlap. So I downloaded this and I can't find it right now, but I downloaded this not Venn diagram, but this flow chart of all these different entities all over the country or the world that Alameda and FTX controlled. But yet at the same time, they had no accounting department, meaning that they had really tight tax shelters system and scheme in place, which shows very deliberate, intentional design and attention to detail. Yet when it came to the accounting, there was none of it. And to me, I don't believe that's an oversight, because if you're sloppy with your accounting, you could just commingle everybody's funds. No one's paying attention. If you had 134 business entities that each had a bank account and a crypto wallet attached to them, and you're tracking the flows going back and forth, that's really easy to detect fraud and manipulation at that point, at least on the internal controls. They didn't have any of this. Basically, they took everybody's money and spent it the way they want, willy-nilly, with no accounting oversight that we can see so far. And I think that is intentional, not by accident.
Yeah. So, Rob McNeely, a couple minutes left here. Do you see this as having a severe impact on the crypto industry? You think it's scaring people off? Or do you think that people are going to are just going to take a rational look at this and just practice better crypto policies going forward? Hygiene. That's the right word. Hygiene.
Hygiene, security. I think in some ways, I think it's good, right? Because it's washing out a lot of bad actors and it's highlighting the need for self-custody. And to me, it highlights the need for decentralized exchanges. And so I think that's a positive thing. I think it's a tough lesson to learn because millions of people have lost a lot of money here. Billions of dollars have been evaporated. But I think that's what we're going to learn. And here's the ironic part about this. SBF was lobbying Congress to make it basically legal in the United States for a software developer to make a decentralized exchange. So this is important. Decentralized exchanges, you control your crypto, and then some third party can't steal it and spend it on gambling bets. He was lobbying against that in the United States and for new regulation, which would drive people to centralized exchanges like his. This is where it's freaking the hypocrisy here. And decentralized exchanges are the way to protect yourself from these kind of scams. Crypto, you don't need these middlemen. So I think what will come out of this, and what I'm hoping for, is that recognition, that self-custody of your crypto, and decentralized exchanges are the way to keep your crypto assets and investments protected and safe. And I think this also highlights the fact that our regulatory system in the United States is trash. Who's regulating the regulators? There's at best incompetence, but I'm not that optimistic. I think there's intentional. I would almost bet that the current SEC and the CFTC, apparently either they looked the other way or just didn't want to look or what have you. But there seems to be some real issues at the Securities and Exchange Commission right now with Gary Gensler. And I think that needs to be looked at. And I hope with this new Republican House, they start pulling these guys in front of the committees and start asking really, really tough questions.
All right, Rob McNeely, we're almost done, but you got to tell us just a little bit about Tusk Network before you go. TUSC.network. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Tusk was a project that's we're going on 5 years old. It's just a cryptocurrency and NFT platform. We never sold tokens and didn't do an ICO or any of that kind of stuff. And we're focused on trying to help industries like the firearms industry deal with the debanking problem and the censorship of conservatives and things like that. So we wanted to create a crypto that was open to everybody and could be very useful out there. We never took anybody's money. We never hyped it as an investment. Our focus has always been solving real problems in industries like the firearms industry.
All right, TUSC.network, Tusk Network. Rob McNeely, my friend and my crypto guy. Thanks for dropping by today.
Ed, thanks so much for having me on again.
All right, stay tuned for one last message from the Ed Morrissey Show coming right up. Thanks for watching and listening to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast. I just want to drop you a note to remind you that we are still going into 2024 with guns blazing, if you will, and with all sorts of momentum going towards Republicans. Even after a disappointing midterm cycle, there is plenty of reason to be hopeful about what's coming up in 2024. There is also plenty of reason to worry about the impact that big tech and government agencies like DHS are going to have on the political debate, especially on big social media platforms. That's why it is still more important than ever to support Hot Air and our other town hall properties by becoming a VIP or a VIP Gold member. Now, being a VIP member or VIP Gold member means that you can comment on the posts, and the comment sections are getting very lively. Great comment sections. We're really getting a good commentary out there in the com boxes. But you also get exclusive content such as Dwayne Patterson's twice weekly columns, Tom Jackson's twice weekly columns from Florida, which is going to be a key battleground in 2024 and a key indicator, especially if Ron DeSantis does get into the race as we expect, of where the Republican Party is going to go. We've got The Amiable Skeptics with Adam Baldwin and I, twice weekly, 2 episodes a week, our video presentation exclusive for VIP members. Plus, we have the VIP Gold Chat with Cam Edwards of BearingArms.com. It's the most fun hour of the week. And I can tell you that both Cam and I will every single time make that claim. The most fun hour of the week, and our VIP Gold members get a chance to participate in it by putting in their comments and questions, and we respond directly to those. In fact, that's the entire reason for having that 1 hour chat on Wednesdays at 1:30 Eastern time. If you're a VIP or VIP Gold member, you can be part of that, and you can use the promo code Save America, and get a 25% discount off of VIP and VIP Gold membership. So be sure to do that. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching the Ed Morrissey Show.